Economic Development Committee meeting for Monday, September 11th. Roll call.
Mark Eastman.
Here.
Steve Bishop.
Here.
Jim Morrison is absent. Jim Boothby is absent. Ron Russell is absent. Larry Wall.
Here.
John Paul Lalonde.
Here.
Joe Davanzo.
Yep.
And Dick Peterson.
Here.
All right. Item 2 is approved minutes from May and August of 2023. August ought to be real easy.
Move we approve the minutes.
Motion approved.
Second.
All in favor? Opposed? Item 3 is recommendation. Rich has spoken with MMA and they are recommending Mr. Craig Johnson to join the Community and Economic Development Committee.
He is the COO and he's in, all things Bucksport related with the academy, so I think that's a perfect fit.
Yep. Do you need a vote on that or anything, Rich?
I'm requesting a recommendation.
When would he start that
He would
position?
start in October. I was worried about our lack of quorums the last 4 months, so I didn't invite him tonight.
Okay. All right. I would make a motion that we accept.
Second.
All in favor? Opposed? You're opposed? You're opposed?
Yeah, might as well.
Discussion items. Under 4, update on the status of Main Street Bucksport.
John Paul, I don't want to put you on the spot, but if you want, I missed the last meeting, if you
Yep.
wouldn't mind.
Big event we have coming up, the end of September, September 29th, 30th, and October 1st is the International Maritime Film Festival. All will take place at the Alamo. Friday night is concert with the Oystermen, the sea shanty group with Carter
Newell?
Newell, yep. And 2 other guys. They performed last year at the library, and it was overflowing. So you scheduled that at Alamo. Should be great. At 7 o'clock, they're going to do 2 sets, and the doors will open an hour and a half before because they're bringing some oysters with them. We're going to have mini crab cakes, other hors d'oeuvres. So that's Friday night. Saturday, 3 sessions, morning, afternoon, and evening with the juried films. I think we have about 7 or 8 films we're going to show. And then Sunday, at the movie will show at noon, but at 1:30, a couple representatives from the Belfast Coast Guard office are coming. As the film we're showing is Finest Hours, which is a story of a 1952 tanker that split in half off the Cape Cod and the Coast Guard rescue of the people who were lucky enough to be on the half that stayed afloat.
Mhm.
So kind of a one of those on the edge of your seat movies, but I thought it'd be cool for the Coast Guard to come and talk about some of their experiences and whatnot. So we're running along. David Doan and I are pretty much spearheading the efforts around the film festival, and we hired Paula Key to assist us in publicity and pulling it together. So you can go to the International Maritime Film Festival website. Just Google that and it'll pop up what website to go to and tell you more about the films and whatnot. So hope to see a well-attended weekend.
Okay. Next update is update regarding the completion of the 2022-2023 DDEI grants.
Downtown District Exterior Improvement Grant. this was the first half that we submitted to the council for projects. Ooh, I did fix an error on there. So the quotes came in at 281, the town share was gonna be 95, the owner's share 186. This information's already been shared with the council, like I said, it's just been a while since we've met. So, invoices came in at 237, so about 43,000 under. The town share was 86,000, so about 9,000 under, and the owner's share came in at 151. So the projects came in roughly $30,000 under what was quoted, but there was some real good work that was done on the projects. A few that I'd like to highlight. Mike Jakes' building is 84 Main Street. You've got the Friars, Blush. The entryway that used to go to the apartment was a metal door and it didn't look very well. Mike fixed that up. He sided it, put a brand new door like that matched the other doors on the site. He put a nice window there as well. He had lights underneath the building, painted, new doors for businesses, and he put also granite steps. That was fantastic. Tom Goodman at 74 Main Street did all the work that he said he was gonna do, removing the fake rocks, replace the shingle style vinyl, install soffit. He finished that in February, and after that was completed and after he was paid out, he then replaced the roof, the shingles on his roof. He then replaced the crumbling wall that was there as well. So a fine example of a little bit from the town goes a long way with a business owner, so that was fantastic. And then Frank Dunbar's barber shop used to be red, it's now gray. Looks really, really good over there as well. Larry did some great work at 77 and 79, the Hayward House, and the Dairyport building. So, you know, the people who said they were gonna do the work, did the work. There was two projects that didn't happen, the same person. It was the half pink, half greenhouse on Main Street as you're going down towards Bucksport Nutrition. Unfortunately, that didn't happen. So that contributed to the shortfall when we talk about invoice totals and owner shares. So quick math says that's $13,117 of quotes that didn't get finished. So all in all, I think it worked out pretty well for the town.
All right, thank you, Rich.
Are we gonna do this again soon?
Well, the committee approved to do it prior to seeing any of these numbers or anything. We had preliminary talk about redoing it, and if memory serves me right, I believe in the March or April meeting, the committee wanted to do it again, but again, I didn't have these numbers finalized till after that meeting.
Mm-hmm.
So are you looking for us to revisit that and make a recommendation, or?
We can forward that recommendation now that the council and this committee's had to look at the time to look at this, or we can take a new recommendation this evening if other factors have weighed in. At this point, I'm not sure where the funding would come from, but that's something that I can deal with Sue on before the next council.
What would you wanna see different? If there was anything you'd like to see different to help you do the job and to help the owners, or wherever the building participants, what was it, was there anything that would improve the program?
Yeah, I think one, business only. I don't think the housing part worked on it. I think, from the feedback that we got, good, bad, or indifferent, a lot of the negative was, houses were able to apply. Of course, you're gonna get it's Main Street, we always throw all our money at Main Street, so that's another. But I would say businesses, and really it's the buildings that really should have took advantage of it the first time, who were radio silent. I mean, throw you on the spot, Larry. I mean, if what we get again is Tom Goodman, Larry, Mike Jakes, it's the same people. It's great that they're continuing to fix up those buildings. but then you're still looking at buildings next door, the Radio Shack, the Napa building, which could really use some work. The Rosens building where Pet Provisions could use some work. The Tozer's building could really use some work. I mean, there's a lot of other businesses in this town
I
that
feel
could
like
really use it, but
awareness for, I mean, that was the first time and it was successful, so I would think it would grow momentum as it goes.
Did you get any feedback about, not knowing, or was there any of that, like?
I
people-
sent,
You sent it directly,
I sent
personally,
direct,
right?
I sent direct applications to the ones I had information on file for.
So the House of Peace did get notification, he just didn't apply.
He got notification but
And the
didn't apply.
Enterprise didn't apply either.
Which one was that?
See, the Enterprise,
That's
And-
correct, yes, he did, he knew and
Yeah, he-
Matter of fact, he ran the articles.
yeah.
And
he didn't
yeah.
apply.
Some people, the timing of it wasn't great, and that's another thing, that we realized, painting, there were quite a few projects that had painting, and we're at the point where it's weather-based, so
Yeah.
they weren't sure if they were gonna be able to get the project, so I had asked the council, after speaking to, Jim, who does painting, and he suggested maybe having a different time frame.
Yeah, would it be better to do this during the spring, during the budget season, so that it can be part of that conversation? And then give people, make an application process after you'd want it in the spring, to give it a year, instead of the fall, winter to give it a year.
The contractor lineup, though, was the only thing that they ran into last time.
That's true.
You know what I
Yep.
mean?
Yep.
So, I don't know how that would be both financially and physically productive.
Maybe instead of running it fiscal year, depending on where the money comes from, because the account we took it out of last year really didn't matter if it was fiscal year, is my understanding. So if we did calendar year, prep them in advance, and then the January to December timeframe, and I can verify if that would still work. But if we were gonna make any changes to the program, I'd wanna take a new vote with the changes.
Do you wanna talk to Sue first and just see where the funding might be possible, and then we can revisit it later on down the road?
That sounds good.
Another change that I would suggest would be, same owner could apply, but it'd have to be a different building. So our first priority would be
To
new applicants.
Yeah.
That's a good point.
Yep.
Yeah.
And what if it was expanded to the village district to go up?
Well, they're supposed to be for commercial.
Right, still commercial, but in the village district, because there's, Well-
Coastal Pet Creations, beauty artists.
Yeah.
beauty artist isn't in the village district,
That's the
is she?
village, yeah, she's the corner
Of
of,
Central.
of Central and Broadway.
And Broadway, okay.
Yeah, that's village. Off the top of my head, and then like a bunch of
Bottle barn.
Airbnbs.
Well, but,
Yeah.
yeah.
Bottle barn, yeah.
Is the grant too low now, given costs and stuff? I mean, I'm looking up there, and I say grant, I'm just talking about $10,000 up there. I see that, 7,000.
I mean,
That's town share.
Yep.
Okay. Given the cost of everything, you wanna inspire some people to do things. Was there anyone that said, no, it's not enough money?
No.
Okay. So
I mean, you should be able to find a project if you've got a house.
Oh,
that gets some
I'm
need.
no
Right.
disagreeing, but I know Larry's got a lot of things going on, and I listen intently. And Larry always, from what I could hear from Rich was saying, are there any suggestions you have, Larry, having taken advantage of this program? No, that says it all.
So just as a refresher, the way this came about, when we had the marketing plan, it was suggested we have up to $300,000 worth of this grant, do it revolving over 3-year timeframe, so 100, and it was gonna come from the whole, not the marketing plan, from the whole Oceans TIF.
Yeah.
And we sat on it, and last year went to Sue and said, is there anything we can do to spearhead this, get it going, and we did.
Yeah.
And we can look to go forward, so maybe what I'll do is I'll talk to Sue about funding, and then take the notes from tonight about different changes, present it to the committee, and then we can work on it from there. And if we can have something in place and the money's there, we can roll it out prior to the holidays, with it not starting until January 1 to December 31, if that's kosher.
That would seem workable.
Yeah, if that makes sense for the money and the contractors with what we ran into last year, if that opens it up for time.
We can do that.
Yeah.
Sounds good to me.
So just, when we're talking about downtown district exterior, downtown district, you're considering up to where?
So
Franklin?
downtown, yep, on the, so on the even number side of Franklin, right, which is opposite of the fire station, that's the even number
Right.
side. But also on the odd number side, from the Masonic Hall back towards Central. That segment has now since been changed to also be included in the downtown district. So what would not be included is anything on the Franklin side of Elm down towards Reggie Ginfield, on that side of the road.
So the bottle return place in Canada is not included in that, correct?
That's in the village, that's correct.
Just wanted to make sure.
Yep. That's a
Thank
good
you.
question.
All right. C, update on the PPI final plan contingent on town council vote.
Okay, so we were not gonna discuss this if this had passed the night before, Thursday night, only because it would've passed. So if it didn't pass, what we'd wanna do is look at, okay, what are some causes as to why we don't want, why it didn't pass? What can we look at? What could have been done better? So I bring this to the committee with the plan of, we're not gonna go through all 92 pages tonight. However, the plan is we will go through all 92 pages and get to a point where this committee looks at it close and says, this is what could be better, or we like this. So, a little background, the town council meeting on Thursday had 4 participants. According to the town's code, that means a vote has to have 4 yays in order to pass. It was 3 votes yay, so it was a majority, but it does not pass because the code says 4. So, with that aside, we still want to go forward and figure out a way to get this back. If the committee thinks that everything here is fantastic and great, let's send it the way it is, then that's what it is. But
What is the scope of what we're looking at here? I mean, you mean everything?
I think we'll go down because you got the recommendations and cost, you got the different streets in the different areas, and so we'll just say someone believes strongly that there should be a sidewalk up McDonald Street, the whole way up McDonald Street, and that wasn't in this plan. We get to that section, then, okay, this, we really want to see a sidewalk on McDonald Street, or we're losing 32 spots, I don't want us to lose any spots, or whatever.
Well, you hit on the head on that one.
Mhm.
I don't want to lose any spots if we can help it.
Yeah, if
But
we
the
can.
Central Street
Mhm.
goes right, the sidewalk would go right past your place, I think, wouldn't it?
We'd go past
Yeah.
it. And would, with the hopes of getting people closer to parking lots.
Absolutely. The only concern I have is, of course, the slope
Mhm.
of the sidewalk, better than nothing, but just how would that tear down, or would it not tear down? Just-
Well, I mean, according to the plan, it would be ADA compliant, no?
Well, that's my question.
I believe
Yeah,
it would.
and that would be stuff that's discovered in the VPI and how you make that happen.
Yeah,
The
how
PPI
wide-
is
Right.
conceptual
How
to say.
wide does it have to be though, Rich? Do we know?
It has to be wide enough so that a wheelchair, which is 3 feet, and I've heard, and I may have misheard, but I believe it's so that 2 wheelchairs could cross each other at the same time. So that's
That's what
approximately
I
6
was
feet.
thinking, whether
Yeah.
it would do that, and then does that encroach on your property?
I mean,
or-
no, I mean, what MDOT said, that there'd be no taking at this point. I remember
yeah.
that distinctly, there was no intent to take. And I brought up the width of Central Street,
Okay,
because
so
it is
that-
not very wide,
That's what I wanted
think
to
it's
find out.
33 feet
Right.
wide.
Yeah, exactly.
So there isn't much space there. I mean, would I work with somebody? Sure, but that was never asked.
That part happens at the VPI.
And then, of course,
yes.
getting from the parking lot down, there's no real access to come down in the back you know, straight in the middle. My wife and I, one time, did a walk between the apartments that are there,
Oh, yes, yeah,
you know.
okay.
And it would have been nice if there was a nice little entryway going down through and,
This is through the Baptist Church
Yeah,
apartment
Wh-
building?
which would have been part of the VPI.
Yeah.
You can't put something on someone's
right,
property without
but
talking to
it
them
wasn't
first.
in the original PPI.
Correct, because we didn't own it, and to do that extra work.
And
to
that's
accept-
what I think we need to address, are these
But that's part of the-
opportunities.
I mean,
That's
as
part of the
Richard said-
VPI, it's part of the $10 million.
Yeah,
No, no,
engineers were
At
gonna-
$80,000, I mean,
Right.
you're not gonna get that in depth, because you don't own it.
Right,
It's
but
extra time and it's
then we
taken
need to
away.
find out, though, ahead of time,
Mhm.
are the owners willing to work with us? I mean,
I mean, I can't
nobody
speak to
asked
the,
it
you
that
both were
question.
in that, well, you were very much in that process, John Paul. Do you have something to say on it?
Yeah, I mean, I can address some of the concerns. Overall, if you ask me what we could have been done differently, is more public input. I know we had 3 public meetings. I was on the committee. I didn't even know there was a meeting last Thursday on this thing. Now, so if I didn't know,
No,
who in the public didn't know?
you know, and I did talk to.
So that's number one. Number two, Dick, you say we don't want to lose any, you know, to me, you drew a line in the sand. We don't want to lose any parking spots. You got to look at the trade-offs. What do you want in the plan, and does it require giving up some parking spots? If not losing any parking spots means that you can't do half the plan, then
What's the value?
what's
Well,
the value of it?
The only
So-
thing go ahead, I don't wanna cut you off,
Yeah.
I'll come in afterwards, go ahead.
I feel that, you know, discussions with landowners about things that, first, let's see if the people like this idea. Those suggestions were brought up at the meetings, and so it can't be built into the plan until you go to the next stage. Does it make any sense? I think if you get the public support for the plan and the council support for the plan, then you go to the landowners that may be affected. I think to go with them up front and have them with not really knowing if you're even gonna go forward, it's easier for them to say, no, I'm not interested at all. But if you go and you say, we have all this support, this is one feature we'd like to have, it's not necessary, but it's a feature we'd like to have, you're selling a different story. So I don't think you have to get every duck in line ahead of time. I think what you have to do is get the public behind the plan, and then it's easier to sell individual components of it.
So I'm only gonna make a statement here. when Saco used to have, cause it's a wide Main Street, had diagonal parking. When they did away with it, cause they were gonna do the same thing here that we're trying to do, their downtown businesses started to die off rapidly. And even though they created some small parking lots in the back, and we're talking flat, we're not talking about going up a hill and all, it had a dramatic impact on those businesses. So obviously, I wanna be very concerned about, if we're gonna cut parking lots, parking spaces in front of our businesses, we better make sure that we're doing the right thing for them, and not just to make it pretty. That's my concern as we move forward, having seen what happened to Saco downtown. Now, you got all kinds of lawyers and others downtown now in Saco, but regular retail business is,
Yeah, but I question whether, how, you
Go
know,
ahead.
what is the strength of retail at this point? You know,
no, no, no
I mean, it might be
disagreement,
different.
no
It's a
disagreement, but I would think the Friars, for one, might be a little concerned about losing parking spots in front of their place, and do they become handicap parking spots? You know, and we're not, you know, when you start to take away that much parking from that area, I think we gotta make sure that we're doing the right thing. Again, when I asked the chief at that meeting about parking, you know, diagonal coming out, no big problems. Okay, the only problem they had was a parallel parking, a car pulling out onto a motorcycle. Okay? Again, we have cameras now in the back of the vehicles. we pull out, we can actually see something before we pull back. I'm just very concerned about losing those business parking spots, and I think we need to address it, that's all. So if we address it and the businesses are happy with that, who am I to argue?
My point is that we're playing sort of like ping pong in a way. We don't really know why the people who are against it, what they're against. No one's coming to tell us what they didn't like. They might like 90% of it and not like 10, and they're voting no because of that 10%. So if we could keep are we just guessing what they don't like? Do we know what person on the board who voted, the council who voted against it, why he voted? Why his people who probably approached him and said, I don't like this. What is it that they don't like? Then we know what we have to address, and we can focus on something. They may like this, and we could be taking it out, and that's what they like, without having input from them. But there's nobody coming forward. Some type of communication from the people and the businesses, what they do or don't like about it. Otherwise, then we're just going back and forth and waiting for some.
You want me to answer that?
Yeah,
I'll answer.
okay.
Yeah. Parking. It's hard to support a lot of these Main Street businesses
Understand
when you take away their parking.
that. So I could imagine, because I could imagine the concept of taking away some of the property in front of the Napa when he has trucks coming in to drop things off, and if they can't get in, then they're gonna be parking on Main Street and blocking.
Well, but
So-
Joe, there's something to know here. I mean, there was a distinct parking lot for now
Yeah,
in this
before,
plan.
if his trucks can get in, then they have to back out onto Main Street. I mean, that's something, a reason why they
But
might
that-
say blah, blah, blah. No, I'm not going against it, I'm just saying, what is their concept, why they would be against it? And then we would have a better idea of how to change something, or say, hey, maybe we can learn something from them and alter our approach, you know? That's all. I'm not saying for or against anything, I'm just saying to express that.
So what I can say from hearing on both ends is prior to the meeting, emails were shared with the people who were concerned, and the concerns were the parking. Now today, the phone calls are coming in from the other side, saying, we are mad, we are extremely mad that this did not pass. So the problem is, you're gonna have people all over the place. We're
Yeah.
not gonna satisfy 100% of the people.
No.
You never can.
Well, unless we get to a vote, and then as the public votes, that'll make the call.
Well, that's right, but still, you're gonna have 100% of people are gonna disagree with each other. You're gonna have a majority.
Yeah, you've got to present something.
You have to present something to them. So my idea on this was to get this committee a little more involved on this, because if you remember, we went through this process once before, and no concerns were raised. So what I'm saying is, let's go through it. Let's not go through the motions. Let's actually talk about it and figure out what would this committee, the Economic Development Committee, like to see. Because I'll tell you in personal experiences from being here, parking is always an issue in front of the businesses, and the biggest culprits are the business owners. Okay?
Yeah, it's true.
It's a true statement. So, if you can't, the model I like to use is, if you believe that people won't walk to your business, what you're saying is your business is not worth walking to.
True.
People who go to the Alamo Theater, there's no parking in front of the Alamo Theater. The Friars is open when the Alamo Theater is open. They park in the Camden National parking lot. They park down in the Town Dock parking lot. They park in the Bangor Savings Bank parking lot. They park where they can find, because they want to see a movie. It is worth parking anywhere to get to the movie theater.
And
But
that
you're
holds
not
true in
carrying
Bangor.
anything. If you go in there, you're going for entertainment and going back. If you're going, parking up at the parking lot and going to the pet store and buying a large bag of food, you're gonna carry it, that may, I'm just saying, there's a reason why people would not. I'm not saying that's gonna affect me, but it may affect certain people. And they say, well, heck with it, I'll buy it over at the dollar store, where I could park right there. I understand the business owner that aspect, since I hadn't been on business, I understand that. You know.
Well, I agree with Rich, to some extent. Bayfest showed that people are willing to park in that parking lot up back. It was full, and they were parking on the side. There were so many people. But that was something that attracted them down. So I think, Rich, if I understand you correctly, if there's not enough to attract them down, what's gonna go in their place then?
Well, maybe something to attract them down.
That's what I'm saying.
So there's no right answer to this, but more communication, more dialogue, the more this is talked about here, the more it'll end up potentially in the local newspapers, and people will come out and join these meetings and participate. These meetings are once a month. As John Paul pointed out, we had 2 public open houses for, was it 3? 2? Maybe it
No, there wasn't one for the final report, I guess.
No, not for the final report, so there was 2, there were 2 public open houses, so this will give another avenue, cause the next election is not until June, cause when you're asking for more than $300,000, it has to go to a voter referendum.
Okay.
So, like I said, I'd just like to, and we don't have to start this evening, we can have it that, we can take sections at a time and start it from there.
Yeah, that might
We
not be
can
a
go
bad
out
way
any way
to
you want.
do it by a section and say, this is what we're
Do
gonna
it
cover
by
next
section,
meeting,
you
and
know.
have everybody have time to absorb it and bring some ideas. to the
Does everybody
table.
have a copy of the final plan? Does anyone need it?
I need it.
You need it?
Yeah,
I-
if it's,
I
if
would
it's
like-
on the website,
On the website.
Oh,
let me know where it
I did
is.
have somebody say they couldn't find it.
yeah, I couldn't find it.
I'm not saying they, I mean, is there a way to see on the website if it's more, you know,
Is that the one you just sent to us? Or no?
Yes,
No,
it
I'm
is.
asking
It
you-
is the one I sent, yep.
I'm asking if there's a way for the public to find it. Where's the public find it on the
That-
town website?
Yeah, well, the town website is kinda showing some old stuff. Like the planning board isn't up to date yet, and, I noticed the tax,
No,
assessments.
they're there now.
That went.
You can find them under tax,
Would you want a sidewalk in front of your house?
but not the tax card themselves.
I went on to.
I don't want an answer right now, just
Yeah,
want
on one
to take
side.
your time and think about it.
I can find it for you.
I got a
Looks pretty
big,
nice.
big ask for you, Rich.
Sure.
Is it possible
How did it
Yeah,
look?
there's,
Good?
it looks nice.
that,
Good.
like John Paul was saying, as far as people's involvement from the public, is it possible to make sure that every business building owner and business owner on Main Street gets emailed a copy of that plan and then gets followed up with? Because the answer you may get from someone that actually owns the building may be a different perspective than the person that's occupying it.
Mm.
So if both people got a copy of that plan and then were followed up with later, that might bring that type of input that John Paul was talking about.
Yeah, we definitely need more input. There's no doubt that a lot of people just didn't know, but they also didn't know about the taxes. And,
Right.
you know, that was discussed a whole lot.
It could have been also that it was an awful lot for people to process. I mean, it wasn't a small thing, it was a small project, it was a lot. And a lot of them feel, well, the town took so long to grow and it's growing slowly. And this can alter it in a way which may be a negative effect, especially what you're saying with the businesses, you know. There's always a fear involved, and it would be nice to know
There's always a fear
why
of change.
and how.
And a couple of the businesses that I spoke with were worried about being able to sustain a depth of that type of project on Main Street, if they would still make it or not. And a couple businesses said, yeah, we have to, and one said, we have an online following and we'll just focus on that. So there was a really broad range of that scenario.
Well,
Larry, can we throw you on the spot? You're a building owner, and you were a business owner on Main Street. Do you have any opinion, or do you wanna wait?
I just soon wait and, you know, digest.
yeah, I mean, why don't we,
Segment.
you name a section and we'll take it, you know, in the next meeting, everybody bring some notes as to what I think would be
That's a good
more developed
idea.
conversation.
I agree.
You know, as far as making it through the construction phase, I mean, I've been through it before, and you just deal with it.
Can you stop? I mean, if you, I mean, even if we didn't do this, Main Street's gonna get rebuilt at some point,
Right.
and it's gonna happen then, you know, it's gonna happen either way.
And when would the next vote happen with the council? I'm
Well, it
sorry.
could happen anytime, but we can't vote on it till, the June election is the likely next
Well, I understand,
opportunity.
but I believe you said this, we lost one opportunity, but we have another one coming up.
I think, see, the council has to vote a certain number of days before being able to put it on a ballot.
I got
So
that.
that's why we lost this opportunity.
I
So-
understand that.
So I guess if it's the June, they can vote anytime up to
Anytime before,
February,
2 months before, I
2
think.
months before, okay.
Yeah.
But the next opportunity would be November?
That's not a
June?
possibility, because you have to have so many days between, to
But
get it on
for,
ballot.
for the council to vote on
Oh,
it, yes. I
for the
mean,
council to
So
revote.
June of next year would be the soonest we could ever vote on it.
Soon as we could have
By the
a
public.
public vote.
Yes.
The council could say, we're gonna put it on the ballot, I
Got it.
believe,
I'm with you, I'm with you.
Yeah.
beforehand.
Okay,
I don't know
Yeah.
if there's a
but the
time
money
constraint.
was 90-10
Yeah,
on this.
Yeah.
In this one coming up, is it still gonna be 90-10?
it's the same program.
It's the same program. If the money's there, the money's there. If it's not, it's not.
That's right, so the money may not be there and we're voting. on-
Correct, because if you remember the Bangor Daily article, Presque Isle is going through this. There's a bunch of communities going through it. We were ahead of a lot of those communities, meaning further along in the process, because we started last August, so
Which made it advantageous for us.
what made it advantageous for us, correct.
So, we're not gonna solve the parking thing now, but I wanna throw something out for people to think about. Because we'll be talking about this in a lot of meetings. Most of the time, and I would say 95% of the time, I don't know, I'm just picking that out here. If you drive through town, there are at least 32 empty parking spots.
I'd almost bet always, except for maybe Bayfest or,
Yeah.
some
Yeah.
event.
Now, in front of, or where there's a cluster of businesses, they may be full.
Yes.
So, to me, that's the real issue. It's not giving up parking spots, is how can we, accommodate the number of parking spots, either on street or off street, for that cluster of businesses.
That's great, yeah.
Yeah.
And if we come up with a plan around that, and it doesn't have to be all on street, it could be one of our public lots is reserved for these businesses or some, it could be lots of different options. But that's the issue, because, it's not, we don't have enough parking spots. We have plenty of parking spots, because like you say, they're never full. It's just, where are they? So, I just wanna have people be thinking about that when we get to that section of the plan.
Yep.
Anyone else, or we just wanna, do you have more you wanna add to this, or you wanna move on and?
No, we can move on, and then I'll,
Is it possible to have in front of directly in stores, retail stores, a time limit of how long you can?
That would take
it's
somebody
2
to,
hours time limit.
but
Main Street is 2 hour parking time limit.
but who mans that?
The police department is in charge of that, and they don't have the ability to. We tried to for a long time, but with the removal of the waterfront officer for all the other things that are going on, you can't control the fact that you have a scene. You have one patrol officer on, potentially two, and if you have an issue take place that takes
Yeah.
up 6 hours,
You can't worry about
you
parking.
can't always maintain it. So it's a very unhandleable scenario.
So that'd be the hard part, is to try to dictate hours.
Right.
No, I mean, the only option is what a lot of other towns are going to, and go to metered parking. So, I mean, that's an alternative,
I don't know if
because
it's gonna
there's
help us
not a
sell this
chalker.
plan, Rich.
Right.
I don't want it. I can't believe it took Bar Harbor so long to get.
And then you have to have someone take care, maintain it.
Well, that would be your revenue,
Yeah.
it'd have to be
It'd
your
be
revenue.
revenue.
Right, that would use it to pay for
Yeah.
itself, for the enforcement.
Right.
It
But
might-
we're-
Might curb the owners of the businesses parking in front of the business.
It very well might.
Good point, Larry. Good point.
I
Yeah.
think there's a difference too, 'cause if you look at Camden, you're talking about people that are going there to buy, so they don't mind walking. It's a treat. Whereas our town is more geared towards the residential, the people who live there, and they want service, so they're gonna park, go in and come out and get in there, 'cause they're used to that.
Well, that's what it is today, but this plan is, the intention is 30, 40 years down the road.
I'm not against it, I'm just saying, the concept of why people are.
Well, I guess what I'm saying is,
You know.
there is you know, potentially progress down the road, that's, becomes less of an issue.
Yeah, and then when it comes to the underground utilities, let's just call a spade, it's $4.225 million.
Are
And
there
that's for a
any
small.
grants for that?
No,
You sure?
there's no grants for that.
There's nothing,
There's no grants for that.
nothing out there at all?
There's
You
no
can try
grants for that.
CMP and see what they
There
say.
could be, I mean,
Yeah.
there'd
There's
be
no
some
grants for
huge
that, and,
benefactor who says, I just have this passion.
Well, I wanna see it underground myself if possible, that's for sure. But again, I think the question has to be asked about future infrastructure, what's gonna happen.
I guess I would worry, Dick, you know, to take that on, I mean, if it's 4.2 to do it, what's it cost to build the infrastructure, you know, 2.1?
I have no clue. I mean, the way things are going with
I-
solar and other things, charging vehicles, I have no clue what that holds in 10 years.
yeah, and that's a very small section from School Street to Mechanic Street.
It is.
So I'd be looking at that cost, and even if you wanted to have inlets or outlets, however you wanna call it, for future, what are you gonna need down there? You're gonna need valves. So, I mean, you're looking at 3/4, and this plan is a no. No, no, no. So unless the town wants to pony up $4.2 million, no,
We'd have no money,
we have no money.
We'd
not
not.
that kind of
I
money.
think the problem there, and that at the very beginning stages of this, some people were under the impression that was we only had to come up with 10% of that.
Yeah,
Right.
salivated.
That's-
Yes.
Right.
And so people got, you know, but if people knew right up front that,
It was included, then they took it away. It came out of the funding pile.
Well, I don't think it, I mean, it wasn't permissible,
Yeah.
was it? That
yeah,
was the
it
issue.
wasn't permissible, but anyhow. I mean, even
But it wasn't
me,
a
who
permission that way front. He's
who
right.
had been a big proponent of it, when I realized that, no, I said, okay, you know, there's bigger fish.
Bigger fish to fry. So yeah, I'll figure out a couple of the sections, and we'll
Right.
take it a couple sections at a time. We'll make sure that the public has enough advance notice, have it in the paper, and
Yeah, maybe put some Facebook posts out that we're gonna discuss it and see if, you know,
we can do that.
and I'll mention it to business, I mean, I would encourage all of us to mention it to business and property owners on Main Street, so.
So is there a plan for a big public hearing on this?
No, not at this point, because
Okay.
we're still trying to get the DOT, because if any changes are made to this, someone's gonna have to be hired to do this, to put all the new changes and everything. So, it cost us, it was an $80,000 PPI, the town is responsible for 40,000 of that. So now the town would have to decide,
additional.
right, do we want to spend X to create a new plan? Or alter the plan, and what's that cost going to be? And who are we gonna get to do it?
All right. Any other comments on this?
No, I'm looking forward to being very active on this.
Okay. Item 5, discussion items not on the agenda for the committee and the public. We can start with the public. Steve, you're the public?
Hey folks, Steven St. Peter here. A friend of mine had a great idea to promote the EV chargers. He said, why not make radio or TV commercials to promote the charging stations? He said, not a bad idea. California and Georgia and Connecticut have commercials, and I don't know if there'd be interest in asking one of the TV stations to make commercials for the charging stations here in town, because eventually we're gonna have 5 charging stations, so I think it'd be kind of a cool thing to do.
All right.
So, all right.
Thank you. Anything from the committee?
Yeah, you know, right now we have, well, let's just start with Main Street. Main Street the way it is, and, one of the things that, I've felt for years, you go through town and there's a lot of properties, I don't say a lot, there's properties that stand out that aren't being taken care of. And even just as well as lawns aren't being mowed, weeds growing up in sidewalks, weeds growing up on the curbs. We've addressed that from time to time, and then it kind of creeps back in. You know, I'm not proposing that we come up with ordinances around it. I'm a big proponent of set an example and get people excited around it. So if the town can take care of their parts, you know, build it and they'll follow, you know. So, that's, you know, just, you know, a comment around that.
Okay. Anyone else? No? Item 6, schedule next meeting. What are we looking at, Rich?
So we meet the second Monday, but that is Indigenous Peoples' Day, so I was hoping we could meet the 16th of October. That would be the third Monday.
Can do that.
It'll work.
Do we have an assignment before then, Rich?
Tomorrow, I will highlight the sections that I think we could get through. There's nothing else on that I have for agenda, so this is sort of gonna work out like the marketing plan where we did those like workshops, where basically the only thing on the agenda was that. So if you want your voice heard, I just ask that you make every effort that life happens. So
And try to bring people with
bring a
you.
friend,
Bring a business friend.
bring a friend.
Okay.
I didn't realize we were going to switch. I just wanted to ask a question. Could I go back to
Sure, go ahead, John.
number 5? It's a quick question, and it's not an insulting, just a question. It's just, I want to understand. Derek Cole left, but that money that we gave him, that 20,000 for the committee, does that stay in the committee? Is that his? He's not on that committee anymore, right?
I'll address that.
Let me just make sure. Are you talking about Main Street Bucksport?
Yeah.
Okay.
Okay, money was not given to Derek Cole, the money is to the program.
Okay.
And when Derek resigned his position, 3 board members went and talked to Sue about it. We have not asked for the $20,000 at this point. She says it's approved, it's yours. If you need it at times, ask for it. We've taken the approach that we'll ask for portions when we need. We're not gonna go and ask for 20,000, you know, say, we need the $20,000 because our bank account's getting low. We need 5,000 of it because we're doing this,
Good,
and
exactly.
we need it, or,
Okay.
so, we're still
It's
running the
better.
program.
Good.
We're not paying, but we asked her about contracting out, certain things. So, like I said earlier, we hired, Paula Key to help with the film festival. Well, you know, we may go and ask for money to pay what we contracted for her for out of the 20,000. She
Good-
seemed,
good
at the time,
explanation.
she seemed fine with that, and
Yeah,
I'm sure-
it's
I'm
a
sure
good
she is.
explanation. Thank you.
All right.
Just one last thing since we talking. Whole Oceans, anything? Dead, huh?
They're paying the taxes. That's-
Paying the tax bill.
Well, they're paying the taxes on an empty lot. I mean,
All right, motion to adjourn.
there
Oh,
you
I do
go.
have one other question. Is Maine Maritime, doing anything to, in lieu of taxes? Or, you know, it's my understanding they do something like that in Castine.
A fee in lieu, but I haven't heard of anything.
I haven't heard of anything.
Yeah.
I believe the police and fire get use of their buildings, and we've had some
Yeah.
trainings there.
It was just,
Yeah.
That's one, since you mentioned it, and I wasn't gonna go to, that's, I voted against having him on, not that I'm against him, or really that they should, but only that, then we're asking an entity which pays nothing in town, are they gonna be trying to push things which benefits them and not the town? I mean,
Oh.
I don't want them to leave, but it just seems kind of odd.
I would take a different view of that,
you're right.
No.
Joe. I mean, Maine Maritime's bringing a segment of people here. We wanna have conversations on how we can get those people to stay here,
Mhm.
eat here, drink here, shop here. So having them in the room is a benefit, because otherwise, we don't know how to get to these people. And I've started to see some in McLeod, some different mariners and stuff. But we need to find a way into that segment for hotels, Airbnbs, restaurants.
They'll know what they need better than we know what they need.
And they may have ideas on how, you know, hotels and whatnot can get into the HR companies, of companies that are sending people here. So I think having them here is a huge benefit, despite the taxes. Larry, sorry.
Speaking of properties, how about the motel? Give it a motel.
You mean, Spring
Fountain.
Fountain?
Spring
Yeah.
Fountain.
The most recent sale, potential buyer that fell through. The doors have all been shut.
We're still waiting on a court case, so get into a
Still
court
waiting on
system.
court, yeah. Still with the courts right now. But the motel, the Bucksport Motor Inn, if you haven't heard, is interested in, on their back portion of their property, adding some cabins, some space. Luke and I walked that property with the property owner the Monday following the council meeting, not this most recent one, but when it was discussed previously. Great view up there. It's a good way to help ensure there's more spaces in town for people to stay here. The YMCA has done a great job of creating tournaments. They had, in 3 consecutive weeks, they had a girls basketball tournament, a boys basketball tournament, and a soccer tournament all here in town. And I know the soccer tournament was the same weekend as, the boys basketball tournament was the same weekend as Bay Festival. And a bunch of the kids that I helped out with at the Kids Zone were at that tournament. So, that's bringing people here, and they're coming from, I mean, there was a team from Scarborough, there was teams from, Washington Academy. So, I mean, those are long day trips to go home and then to come back, so they've stayed somewhere. It's now really working on the advertising part to get them to stay here, but there's only so many rooms at the 2 locations we have outside of, the Airbnbs, and we're finding a lot more of them. There's a lot of Airbnbs in this town, and I stress a lot, and a lot of unpermitted Airbnbs in this town.
So for conversation's sake, would the idea of the village district for the improvement grant, technically an Airbnb would be a business, and that could hurt us potentially for
Well,
that.
and we can talk about parameters, you know,
We
They would have to be they'd have to be registered,
Yeah,
because,
Maybe.
hotels and motels have to be inspected.
right.
And if you're an Airbnb and you're not being inspected, are you doing the right thing?
That's a big conversation.
Is there a fire safety? I mean,
Right.
So, yeah, I mean, it's technically a business. So, yeah, I mean, it's really up to the community what the
Yeah, if we
community
set-
thinks.
I mean, we can talk about parameters if we're gonna move forward with it as to what's applicable and what's not.
Yep.
All right,
One
Mike,
other building thing,
go ahead.
cause they're very open to it. Everybody should take the opportunity to go to the Masonic, see what they're doing in there,
It's beautiful, I've been in there.
so.
Nice.
Any word of when are they gonna start with the apartments on Main Street next year? Did we hear anything from him?
I gotta reach back out. I was asked, I thought I was asked that question Thursday, but I wasn't. So it's about 3 months behind because of the 3-month lag between attorneys and our attorneys
Closing.
at closing.
All right, if there's nothing else, we have,
Motion to adjourn.
Second.
all in favor? Thank you, everyone.